What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, guys. We back in Sweden. Somebody sent me this video through my Google Forms and from Living Swedish. I think I checked out maybe one of her videos before. And I think she just posted this one. Yep, 2 days ago. And somebody sent me this. Actually 2 days ago. I think somebody sent me when she posted it that day or something like that. At least when I seen it, might have been a day or so. But discovering Sweden's surprising side. Gonna be interesting. I always look to see some new information about Sweden always. So appreciate whoever sent me this. And y'all make sure y'all check out Living Swedish. Because the last video I did, it was pretty good. Pretty good. She got some good stuff out here. So y'all check her channel out, subscribe to her. Let's check out this surprising side of Sweden. 5 things you had no idea about. Let's see.
For the trees. Humans are very likely to adapt to their environment very quickly. But in today's video, I want to talk about things I discovered here in Sweden which are not that usual. And these 5 things might surprise you as well a little bit if you don't live in Sweden. Maybe Swedes who are watching this video as well know all of them, at least one of them. If you do know these things, which I'm going to mention in this video, let me know in the comments down below. But would be cool if maybe something is amongst those 5 things a Swede didn't know. So I'm originally from Germany, but before I moved to Sweden, I lived 10 years in London, the UK, and now I have been living here almost 2 years in Sweden. So just to let you know where I'm coming from, that sometimes it takes a little bit of time to discover things. And actually, the list was a little bit longer than 5 things, but I thought I make this video quite short. And if you like this video, I will reveal the other things in another video. Without further ado, let's get started with the surprises here in Sweden.
Nice. So Germany, we got the UK.
So the first thing I want
You've been some nice places.
You can get a free taxi in certain circumstances. So that sounds maybe a little bit odd, but it's something I haven't heard before and slowly discovered here whilst living here in Sweden. So what do I mean with that? So the main part I want to talk about where you can get a free taxi is actually around the educational system. For example, when your child wants to go to a school and the school is not in walking distance, or it's too much hassle for the parents to drive them, or let's say that's exactly why the taxi is there, so the parents don't have to drive them to school, you are eligible for a free taxi.
You know what I just thought about, like, I don't do too many videos on kids, or when I did, it was like the difference when it comes to education, of course, here in the States and other different countries that I've learned about. I never really hear about school buses. I only heard about kids taking like the regular bus. I just thought about that when she mentioned that they're able to take the taxi if they can't get them to school. I just thought about that. That's crazy. Which, the transportation system in Europe is different. Down here, we have school buses. That's the only transportation to school, from school that kids have. And I would say that's their independence right there, even. Like, their kids are pretty independent when it comes to going, staying out, watching, waiting for the bus and all those different things. Of course, the yellow bus, is taking you to school and taking you back home. The other buses, we do have another bus, but it's for like the elderly. But I just thought about that when she mentioned that. That's interesting.
And that means actually every day on the way to school and also back. There are certain requirements, and I put here a little screenshot which I got.
Okay, let's see. Sorry. They say distance travel is a shorter amount between the student will be provided school transfer. Okay.
From one municipality, so that means also it depends on where you live. In Sweden, each municipality has their rules, and based on that, you can get a free taxi for your child or not. Why I'm mentioning this, I feel it is quite surprising. I don't think it's available in any other countries. Of course, I don't know the rules of all the other countries. So if you do have that as well in your country, let me know in the comments down below. We definitely don't have that in Germany, as far as I know, and as well as in the UK. It doesn't exist. It's government money, which obviously goes towards that support. It just shows again that Sweden really cares about about children.
That's a
and
good
then
thing,
especially
though.
about their educational system. No one should suffer, everyone should have the same opportunities. So if you live
That's
further
true.
out, I mean, that definitely applies a lot in the countryside, but even here where I live in Haninge, which, there's a good public transport. So normally you could get, where you need to go to. But
This is good. I ain't gonna, this is a big surprise to me because this is the first time I heard about this, out of all the videos I've done about Sweden, but this was a big surprise.
even
And this is
here,
just the first one.
I see that there are taxis around here which are picking up children or teenagers because they go to a certain school. It's not only applicable for, the far countryside somewhere in Sweden. Of course, there's also other things like when you have a disability. I saw cars, taxis for that as well, which are arranged. If you have any requirements in that area, there's definitely...
See, we have like a bus. It's not, I wouldn't say it's just for the elderly, but I think it's for people that are disabled too. Ours is called the Connection Bus. We got the Connection Bus. I don't think it charges them, but if it does charge, I think it's like $2 or something to ride it, something like that to get to where you need to go and back or something. But I think we have something like that
in
as
the
well.
municipalities. And one thing regarding taxis or free taxis I wanted to tell you as well is that you actually can get a free taxi as well when you give birth here in Sweden. To be honest, this is something I didn't really know about. When you have to go
You gotta ride home, free
to the
ride
hospital
home.
and you don't have a car, you can actually claim the money back. At least that's what I read. I didn't do it. I was just like, too much distracted with having a baby. But it is possible, and if you can, you probably should make use of it.
That's a big surprise.
So the next thing I want to talk about is related to work. So when you are an employee at a company here in Sweden and you have passed your 6 months probation time, anytime from then, you can actually take off 6 months to start your own business. Yes,
What?
I find that so fascinating.
I ain't gonna lie, that's great. That's interesting. I thought you was gonna say you could take off 6 months from work. I was gonna be like, whoa, that's different right there. But that's cool. Take off 6 months, start your own business. That's pretty cool.
This is actually a law. That means your employer has to give you those 6 months if you want them. So what does it mean?
Wow.
So basically, you can tell your employer you want to take off 6 months.
I thought I was tripping. I'm hearing like a beating sound, buzzing sound.
You have unpaid leave, but after those 6 months, you get your job back and can just continue.
Wow.
I think that's just an amazing idea, That just shows that...
So do the business have to succeed in order, or if it fails, you still guarantee your job? That's interesting. Huh. I would think, if the business don't work out, anybody, some people probably start another business or something, but to know that you still guaranteed your job back, it's like you might as well take that chance.
Sweden knows what people want, I think everyone has sometimes this little itch of like, I have this idea, I really want to work on it, but obviously I have a full-time job, I don't have the time for it. And entrepreneurship is so much supported here, which I think is really, really great. Of course, whoever worked on a startup idea or started an own business knows how hard it is. And I think the majority of people who take these 6 months don't succeed. But I don't think that's necessarily negative. It's just something to give you the opportunity to try something you really, really want to. Maybe you're not made for like an own.
Now, do they still get paid during that 6 months, or do they just guarantee their job back? That's interesting to know. But man, I think a lot of people, here a lot of people, entrepreneurship is big. Everybody, especially when content creation, all these different things are able to pay. Entrepreneurship is big, you definitely got to make sure you're listening to the right people though, so you can succeed. But like I said, 6 months, I think 6 months is enough time to know if you really want to go forward with it. That's enough time. I think that's pretty cool in Sweden.
Of course, 6 months is not that long to actually succeed and make a lot of money, or maybe the equivalent to your day job. But I think just to have this opportunity is such a unique idea. And I think it's amazing that you have this opportunity here in Sweden. The same applies to when you actually study. You are allowed to take off 6 months to interrupt your studies, to start your own business and try your ideas. And you can then just come back and continue studying. So that's also possible. I made a video about a university here in Stockholm and interviewed 2 students, and they actually did exactly that, taking off some time to work on their startup idea, which, by the way, is news in English. I leave the link down in the description just in case you want to sign up to News in Sweden, but in English. Let me know if you knew about that, and let me know if you work here in Sweden already.
Dang, I did all these videos. I never knew that either. That's 2 things. Those are a big surprise.
If you've tried taking off those 6 months and working on your startup idea, I would be very curious to know. Okay, the third thing I want to talk about is also related to having your own business. It's something called, quite difficult to say in Swedish, but I'll try. It's called uppbyggnadsskede. I hope I said that right. It's such a hard word. So basically it means construction phase. So when you start a business here in Sweden, everyone knows it takes a little bit of time until you get your business up and running. So the government decided...
Let's see what the government decided. The rules on construction phase means that as an entrepreneur during the time the company is newly started can receive a sickness benefit, qualifying income that corresponds to the salary for a similar job as an employee. Wow. Until August 2018, there was no possibility of a build-up phase for limited company owner, but today the possibilities exist for them as well. Wow.
It takes up to 36 months to probably build your company properly.
So you gotta qualify
to have the income you would have maybe when you work a full-time job in a company. Very simplified. For example, when I moved here to Sweden, I was still working for my current employer, but to make it legal, I started my business so I can invoice them here from Sweden to England. But why I'm actually mentioning this is I got pregnant, and then there was this discussion of what kind of parental leave am I eligible for. So normally if you come from the EU and you have worked in the EU, your former job still counts as like you have worked in the EU, and then based on your salary you would get parental leave paid out. But because I work in the UK, it didn't really count. So I couldn't really use this as, you know, I have worked and therefore I get some money. But because I started my own business, I was treated like this is the amount I will get paid after 3 years, or within those 3 years I started the business. I started my business as a insights analyst, like a data analyst. So then you could look at what you normally earn as a data analyst in Sweden. And then they took this salary and kind of gave it to me. And based on that, I was paid parental leave. I think it's a very interesting concept, something I would not expect. Something, again, which has a lot of faith into people as well.
I think that's pretty cool because I feel like here in the States, this depends on where you work at, because we do not get parental leave. Like in education, they do, but I think they only get paid up to so many, I guess, weeks, or I think it's so many months. I don't know how normal... when it comes to parental leave, I don't know how like the normal months or, you know, a couple of weeks people are out for it. My guess is like 3 months, I would say, you know, because I feel like they give them time before the baby come and after the baby come. So I would say it's like 3-4 months. But here, I don't think they give them that much. They give them a certain percentage. I did a video before. I forgot the percentage, but I think some jobs will actually give you a certain percentage. Not
they really trust you that you're going to make that money, and then from that money you will pay taxes, right? That's what it is all about. But you haven't started, so you kind of get the money in advance. Again, something I haven't really seen in other countries, maybe in other Nordic countries that exist as well, of course. Normally, they can be quite similar in their systems, but yeah,
Mhm.
this also only exists since 2018 here in Sweden. So it's not that long ago that this was introduced, and I was very lucky to benefit from it. Yeah, I
that's
just wanted to
good.
mention it
That's
because you
nice.
never know if you're maybe in the same situation or you're looking for some solutions, then this is something you could look up and see if it applies to you as well. Okay, another
pretty
thing
cool.
I want to talk about. These are actually all the good things Sweden provides to specific circumstances, to specific life events. So here in Sweden, you can actually vabbing, which basically
Vabbing.
means vad av barn. That means you can
Vadabban.
take off a day of sick leave for your child. If you're parents,
Ah.
you know how stressful it can be when your child gets sick and when
On
they
everything.
start nursery and just be in nursery regularly, you know that this can happen more often than not. And then you have to take off time of work, and that could be quite a problem. But here it is actually the law that the employer has to give you the time to look after your child when your child is sick. They have
Okay, I think I've heard this. I've heard this before, but that's a good thing.
to
I think
let
that's
you go,
important.
but they don't have to pay you, which is maybe quite common. But then the government steps in and actually pays you VAB money, which means it's like sick leave money. You get
Dang.
paid to look after your child, so you don't lose out a lot and and have to stress about not being
That
able to
VAB
earn
money.
anything whilst you look after your sick child. I remember a time
Dang.
when my daughter actually broke her arm at nursery in the UK,
Ooh.
in London, and of course I had to go to emergency the next day and couldn't work, had to look after her, make sure she's okay, find out what happened, etc. And I told my employer, and they said, well, either I have to work these hours or I take off that time as unpaid leave, which I found
Ooh.
very shocking. I mean, it was the first
Need that
time
money.
I encountered that, so it just intuitively felt wrong and mean.
And see, we have, when I worked at the last company I was at, we had PTO, paid time off. But we pretty much had to work a month just to be able to get a day off. And that didn't start accumulating until, I think, like 6 months on the job, a year. Like 6 months to a year, you had to be on the job, and then that time started accumulating. It was crazy because and then one time I had a lot of days, and it restarts by the year. It sucks because it's like you got to use that time once you get it. You got to use all of it, or it's just going to restart.
I don't know. It kind of makes sense. Yeah, you don't work, you don't get paid, but that's why there is this welfare
No work,
system
no
here in
play.
Sweden, thinking about all these things, which can be quite stressful sometimes.
Mhm.
So here in Sweden, the pay is slightly less than 80% of what you normally get, but there's also a cap that you can't earn more than 1,175 SEK per day if you have to VAB for your child. And then there's also the possibility to actually have 50% you look after your child and the other 50% you can work, depending on, maybe your kid is sleeping and you actually can work a little bit. So it's very flexible as well, again, based on your own circumstances.
Yeah.
So what do you think
That's
about
interesting.
VAB? Do you have that in your country? Is that something you would like to have?
We have like some different options for. I wouldn't say it would be just for miss work, but we have some welfare options that some mothers just can't get. I think they just will have to make a certain amount of money in order to get it, like for housing, food stamps. What else we got? Got the thing called WIC. We can get like dairy products. So they have different things, but I don't think our government pay them for missing work.
Then maybe you should move to Sweden. The last thing I want to talk about is actually homeschooling here in Sweden. This is nothing I actually was considering to do with my children, but I know that especially a lot of Americans like homeschooling and do that in their country. But in Sweden, it's actually illegal to homeschool.
What?
So kids go normally from 7 years old until 6 years old to school, or that's 16. At least the minimum time they go to school. So that is considered the years where there should be an education in school. And yeah, homeschooling is not very traditional here compared maybe to the US. And
see, you know, I think I knew like one person just growing up. I just knew one person that was homeschooled. I don't know that many people homeschool, because I think now homeschool, they got like different things, because they got like homeschool sports and all this stuff now. But homeschooling, it seemed like we had to during COVID. I ain't gonna lie, we had to do like homeschool, but it's like we didn't have a choice then. But I think the school systems here, it's looking like we finna have to stay homeschooling, because it's school ain't safe no more. It ain't even the point of like getting a great education right now. It don't seem safe.
And the authorities really want children to be in school, obviously because of the education, but also of the social life. And only in very, very rare circumstances there can be homeschooling at home, but you have to apply for that, and it can be denied depending on your reasons.
Yep.
But if you just have the feeling you want to homeschool your children, that's definitely not possible here in Sweden. I'm personally not a fan of homeschooling. I cannot imagine spending so much time at home with my children and homeschool them. But I do understand why people are doing it. I wasn't a fan of the German school system when I went to school. It was very old school. It was very, only those very old school subjects like biology and physics and mathematics, which you obviously still have in school, which is absolutely fine. But I think schools also adapted to the real life. There's things like media or the languages and stuff like that. So I think these days you can actually do more things at school than just those very traditional subjects. But yeah, I could not see myself homeschooling the children. I don't even have the knowledge, and I'm a social person, and I think my children are quite social, so it would be also difficult to really build like a social system for them, making friends. You had to put that on top of homeschooling and make sure you go out and find these places where they can make friends. Anyways, that's just me on homeschooling. But I found
homeschooling can be tough, because I ain't gonna lie. Like, you gotta think there's parents that still gotta work and stuff. Or I think here in the state, usually if somebody homeschool their kid, the wife might be a stay-at-home mother or something like that. That's the most times. I never seen a father homeschool. Because most time man and working.
It's very interesting that it's actually illegal here in Sweden. So I thought it was super interesting when I discovered these things in the last 2 years. But do let me know if there were any surprises for you, or if you knew all of these things which exist here in Sweden. I would be very curious to know what you thought about everything. Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Have a great day and stay safe.
Good.
Hey do.
Did I subscribe to her? Yep, I already subscribed. Let's see. Oh, she bought a house. Oh, I had to see that. The process of buying a house in Sweden. Oh, to tell you this how. So he said that do exist. Or Michelle, she said that do exist in the UK. Lesson for the first. I worked in the car, told them to take 6 months out. You can't expect them to take you back willingly, and the coworker might not like you anymore. So even if you work there by law, the discomfort. Yeah, y'all go check this video out. Go check the video out. Leave a comment too, and let me